Twitter permanently bans President Trump from his platform. Apple and Google take aim at free speech platform Parler. Plus, CNN wants to take down Fox News. All that and more. I'm Bobby Eberle. This is Saturday Live Stream.
And God bless the United States of America.
All right, friends, welcome to the show. Happy Saturday. Thank you so much for spending time on our Saturday live stream. I love doing this, and I love that you guys are here. We've got a lot to go over because just last night, big breaking news. We're going to cover that today. Twitter bans President Trump from its platform, permanently bans him. But this has been building, folks. This has been building for a while. The left hate conservatives. They hate free speech. They hate anything that runs counter to their narrative. And we've seen it building. Conservatives have been under attack. But here's the thing, is that President Trump almost served as our shield, as our buffer, because one of the reasons that he got elected was because he said he was going to go after the fake news. He was going to go after the media. He was going to go after big tech. He was going to go after all of these entities that censor and have bias and go against free speech. So rather than spending a lot of time on us, although I'm going to get into some details where a lot of conservatives are under attack, they focused on President Trump. And we saw what happened during this election season, through the summer, on Election Day, after Election Day. Anything that went counter to President Trump, they were on board. They threw all professionalism out the window. They were all in for Joe Biden and all in to bring down President Trump. We saw it this summer. We saw it closing days of the election. If it's coronavirus, for example, you could be a leading medical expert, a physician trained in virology or epidemiology, and have an opinion that runs counter to what the left-wing narrative of coronavirus is. You can't even express your opinion. People put out videos, they put out columns, and they were blocked. They were banned. You couldn't share that. Even though this was from experts sharing their own opinion, you couldn't do it. They said, nope, we're blocking that. We saw that with the Hunter Biden story. A legitimate news story from a legitimate news source was blocked by social media. The New York Post account was shut down for a while. You couldn't share it. I tried to share the story. You couldn't do it. Then after the election, basically anyone who's talking about election fraud gets demonetized. All my videos on this platform dealing with election fraud have been demonetized. President Trump gets on Twitter. Everything that he does is flagged. That's what's going on. And they link to some bogus descriptions on what's happening, on why they're flagging this, when there is hundreds of people that came forward, affidavits, and clear election law violations that have never been taken up by the court. So Supreme Court at least needed to hear that, and they didn't. They punted. But now, and we thought that was bad. You thought all of that was bad? That's nothing compared to what is happening now. Because what happened this week, it was like a perfect storm. A couple of events happened that really just unleashed the left. And that is, the two main ones are the certification of the electors by Congress. The House and Senate certified the electors. So Joe Biden was certified. He's going to be inaugurated on January 20th. He's going to be the next president. And then the runoff elections in Georgia, where both seats went to the Democrats. Democrats now have control of the Senate. When Joe Biden comes in, presidency, House, Senate, they control the legislative branch and the executive branch. And I guess that was the cue. I guess that was the cue for the left, social media, all of these platforms, big tech, to unleash the equivalent of Executive Order 66 from Star Wars, because they have been blasting conservatives over the last couple days. The big target, Twitter, taking down President Trump. And here's the story.
Breaking tonight, just in the past minute, Twitter has announced it is cutting off President Trump's ability to post on the social media site permanently, suspending the president's account at Real Donald Trump. Twitter saying, after close review of recent tweets from the president's account and the context around them, we have permanently suspended the account due to the risk of further incitement and violence. In context of the horrific events this week, we've made it clear on Wednesday that additional violations of the Twitter rules would potentially result in this very course of action.
All right, so Twitter permanently bans President Trump. Facebook and Instagram followed suit. But folks, with Twitter, it is absolutely outrageous what they're doing, and their justification is just out there in space. They have a whole page dedicated to their reasons why they're banning President Trump. And I encourage you to read it because they bring up two tweets. They use two tweets of the president as reference, as evidence against him on why they're banning him. And I just have to show these to you because it just makes no sense on the surface at all. Here's the first one. The 75 million great American patriots who voted for me, America first, and make America great again, will have a giant voice long into the future. They will not be disrespected or treated unfairly in any way, shape, or form. All right, that's Twitter's first piece of evidence. That is what they are using against President Trump, thanking his 75 million supporters and saying, you are going to have a voice. You're not going to be disrespected. You're not going to be put down. You're going to have a voice, a big voice for a long time. Then that leads them to their second piece of evidence, this tweet from President Trump. To all those who have asked, I will not be going to the inauguration on January 20th. That's it. That's his tweet. And those two are what Twitter uses as evidence to permanently ban President Trump from his platform because he's inciting violence. And then they list in their statement these points, these reasons based on those two tweets on why they're doing it. Here's part of the statement from Twitter. We assess the two tweets referenced above under our glorification of violence policy, which aims to prevent the glorification of violence that could inspire others to replicate violent acts and determine that they were highly likely to encourage and inspire people to replicate the criminal acts that took place at the U.S. Capitol on January 6, 2021. So Twitter says those statements are highly likely to encourage violence. It's absolutely outrageous, folks. That makes no sense at all. For the last, 2 months, people were wondering, even longer, for those that supported Joe Biden and thought he was going to win outright, they were wondering, would President Trump attend the inauguration? He clarified it. He says he's not, but somehow that is highly likely to incite violence. It's so bogus, and it just shows the power that Twitter currently has right now. Here is more from their statement that just makes you wonder what's going on in 2021. Here's Twitter. The second tweet may also serve as encouragement to those potentially considering violent acts that the inauguration would be a safe target, as he will not be attending. The use of the words American patriots to describe some of his supporters is also being interpreted as support for those committing violent acts at the U.S. Capitol. Folks, this is outrageous. This is absolutely outrageous that Twitter takes this license to ban the president. Facebook has followed suit. Instagram has followed suit. Our leading voice against the media, against big tech, is being silenced. Now, he's going to move on to other platforms, maybe start his own social media. I think he's set up an account on Parler or will soon. But this is what has happened, folks. And that leads us to our next segment, which is the rest of us. What is going to happen to the rest of us? But first, if you're new to the show or haven't subscribed yet, please subscribe. And when you do, please hit that bell so you'll be notified. We're making our push for 150,000 subscribers, and we can do it with your help. That is, unless YouTube shuts us down. All right, so that was President Trump. That's what happened last night. And again, this has been building and building and building. But folks, it didn't stop there. Again, this is like Order 66 in Star Wars. It's happening all over the place. Here is a tweet from actor James Woods. 85,000 followers purged in a day and a half. I guess the Twitter folks missed all the liberal blather about unity. So he's got 85,000 followers gone. I've lost 1,000 YouTube subscribers over the past month. But this is what's shocking is yesterday I got on Facebook and Twitter and I let people know that over the course of the day, I lost 2,000 followers on Twitter. From my account, that had 34,000. Now it's down to 5,000 is what I've lost. It's 29,000. In a day, I've lost 5,000 followers on Twitter. James Woods, 85,000. There's a guy I know, John Lovell. He is a former Army Ranger. He runs a site called the Warrior Poet Society. I really love it. He's developed a great YouTube channel, and he talks about tactical training. He talks about movies. He talks about gear. He talks about all sorts of stuff in society from a Christian perspective. He posted this yesterday on Instagram. Your story goes against our community guidelines. Folks, this guy does nothing against the community guidelines. He has humor. He has Christian advice. He has reviews. All of it from that perspective. He was blocked yesterday. This goes on and on. You can see screenshots all over the internet of people being blocked. And like I said, this is happening all over the place. As Twitter was cracking down on President Trump, Parler is growing like crazy. We saw this over the course of the election controversy. Yesterday, they were shut down a lot of the time because so many conservatives are flocking over to Parler. Well, guess what? It's not enough, I guess, to leave a platform like Twitter that is against free speech and go to some place that supports it like Parler, because now the companies, the big tech companies that control the apps, our access to Parler through our phones, they are cracking down. Here is Dan Bongino, who's co-owner of Parler, talking about the influence, the strength of big tech, how it's gotten stronger than the government.
If you're arrested by the government or fined by the government, there's a process. That's, the law and order. That's the order component. You can get a lawyer and you can fight back. That's not what you have. We have been threatened by Apple with 24 hours notice, with nearly no legitimate recourse whatsoever, Parler, that we're going to be taken down from their site by a monopoly company that monopolistically controls its app store. Even worse, Twitter bans the president of the United States while China's still posting about sterilizing Uyghurs and the Iranians are running their Death to America account.
This is outrageous, folks. Iran is the #1 state sponsor of terror in the entire world. They can still post stuff. China can still post, but the president of the United States thanking his followers and informing us that he's not going to attend the inauguration, that's hate speech. That's inciting violence. We're going to shut him down. We're going to shut him down because some people may interpret something that the president said and may act a different way than Twitter wants. It's so much supposition. It's absolutely outrageous. But this is what's going on. And it doesn't even end there. Tucker Carlson pointed out on his show that CNN is now targeting Fox News. And what I mean by that is CNN staffers have been calling and pressuring the 6 major cable providers to drop Fox News from their lineups. They want Fox News dropped. And the reason is because they say Fox News incites violence, that they promote hate speech. And we are going to be seeing this over and over and over again. It's unreal. The left disagrees with what they say. So rather than debate in a public forum, they will shut us down. They call us bigots. They call us racist. They call us homophobes. Now they say we engage in hate speech that incites violence, all as an excuse to shut us down. It is absolutely outrageous, and we need to fight back. And this is what is so frustrating. It's so frustrating because these big tech companies are protected by what's known as Section 230 of the Communications Decency Act. And because of that, they have free rein to block and ban conservatives. It's not just a private company doing its thing. This is different, folks. This is companies acting under federal protection that should not exist. And for those of you who don't know what Section 230 is, just a little bit of background. The internet has existed for a long time. In the 1960s, it was developed as a way for government agencies and academic institutions to communicate with each other. So if I reference the internet, know that I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about the early to middle 1990s with the development of browsers and the World Wide Web, when the internet was basically available now to you and me. I happened to be in graduate school, and rather than studying, I was working on web browsers, which I think is why I developed a news company online. But that was the start. And so it was a free-for-all. This was a new medium. People didn't know what to do. They were in these public forums posting all sorts of stuff, pornography, violence, you name it. And there were cases out there where organizations, those companies, tried to remove that, and the cases brought upon them said, no, you couldn't. You have moved yourself from an aggregator, people that are just bringing information together, to a publisher. So the government wanted the decency standards. They wanted companies to be able to purge that profanity and that other unacceptable stuff from. They didn't know how things were going to end up now. So they passed this Section 230, which allowed them to do that and still be considered an aggregator. Well, now we see some 25 years later, what has happened? The fallout from this. These tech companies have gone more and more left wing, and they are using that to avoid liability for purging conservatives, specific political thought. That is what they are purging. And President Trump railed against Section 230. He railed against it over and over again. The Senate had a chance to do something about it, but they punted because they are more concerned about standing up for changing the names of military bases rather than fighting Section 230. It's outrageous what these companies are doing, folks, and we need to fight back. That is Section 230, and we see what's going on. It's happening to me, it's happening to others, and we have to have alternatives. Someone wrote in about these other platforms that are going on and what we should do about it. I am on Parler, folks. On my social media, you can access me at Bobby Eberle 13. That's my lucky number. It's not just for the 13-minute news hour. I turned 13 on a Friday the 13th. So the number kind of sticks with you. Bobby Eberle 13 on all social media platforms, including Parler and Rumble. I believe my last 5 or 6 shows that I've done for the 13-minute news hour are also available on Rumble. I suggest you guys check that out. And I make a plea, I beg for Parler and Rumble to get their platforms up to prime time. You don't want to miss this window. Parler's crashing like crazy. There's still things that need to be tweaked with the interface. There's a lot more to do on Rumble as well to get these ready, because believe me, if your company executives, if you're listening, we have conservatives that are waiting to jump ship. And it's so sad that we have reached this point in this country where we have 2 divisions. And I'm not even talking about, just liberal mindset versus conservative mindset and debating on the issues. You basically have these 2 mindsets where on one side, you advocate and you support free speech. That means if someone shows up, some Democrat or some liberal, they are still welcomed. You might not agree with them. You might detest what they are saying, but they are still allowed to say it. Some of my best experiences during this election cycle, whether it was on the BBC or Sky News, some of these way left wing where it was oftentimes 3 against 1. I loved it because we were actually debating. So you have one section of society that's developing that says, I may agree with you, I may disagree, but you're welcome here. And then the other side, which is the left, which will never participate on that side because they will not engage in debate. They will smear, they will just slander folks, try to shut down that voice, and they want their own speech. They don't even want this to exist. Debate is not part of their equation. It's accepted speech versus free speech. And the accepted speech is what is along the left-wing narrative, what toes the left-wing line. That is what we're seeing, and it's so frustrating. So my videos are available on Rumble. Like I said, I am on Parler. We need to patronize these platforms and support them. I mean, this is what is going on. I mean, I've got another question here that I want to go over in just a second, but those are the platforms that I think we should migrate to. I know there's a lot of others out there. I'll be looking at this, but what we have seen in the past couple of days is an all-out assault on conservative values, and it's going to get worse. It's not just free speech talking about the election. Keep in mind, here's another thing. I'll cover this story more in depth on Monday's 13-minute news hour. But Josh Hawley, senator from Missouri, he has a book coming out, I believe Simon & Schuster, talking about big tech. They canceled the book. They canceled the book because they blame him for part of what happened on Wednesday. Senator Hawley, along with Senator Cruz and others, you know what they were doing? They were engaging in debate. They were standing up and saying, let's have a debate on these allegations of voter fraud and election law violations. And that is what was so frustrating about Wednesday, because I was tuning in to hear finally the debate. Now, I, like many of you, watched some of those hearings, those Senate hearings, House hearings at the state level, where witnesses would come forward, where Jenna Ellis and Rudy Giuliani were talking. But this is nationally televised. This is the national stage. This is front of Congress. And when they made it to Arizona and they had the first objection, it was stunning. It was inspiring. Did you see it? People were clapping. Steve Scalise on the House side gave just this impassioned speech. That's what I was looking forward to. And then we saw how it went. But that's all Josh Hawley was doing. He was debating election law violations and election fraud. We can even call it claims. Let's just, for the sake of argument, call it claims. But this is what they were going to air. We have one side that says they were baseless. You have another side that says, look at the evidence. That's debate in American society. His book deal, so income and exposure, just canceled by this publisher because they didn't like the fact that he was debating election fraud. That is what we are seeing. That is what happened yesterday to a United States senator. It is so frustrating, so crazy. We had another question here talking about what President Trump's going to do and what the actions are that the Democrats are trying to do. In the past couple of days, they've pushed two initiatives. One, they wanted Vice President Mike Pence to invoke the 25th Amendment. And for those of you who don't know what that is, the vice president and a majority of the cabinet can come together and basically remove the president from office. Say he is unfit, he's out, and then we have a replacement. We have Mike Pence. That is what the Democrats were trying to push him to do. The other thing that they're trying to do is impeach him again. It's so outrageous when he has 11 days left in this term. They want to impeach him. So you might wonder, is this just out of spite? What are they trying to do? Well, there's a bigger idea involved here, folks, a bigger picture with this push to impeach the president. And that is what happens if he's impeached per the Constitution. And what happens there is it only takes a majority number vote in the House to impeach the president. They did it once. They could do it again because they have control. It goes to the Senate, which is now in Democrat hands. But to convict the president, to remove him from office, you need a 2/3 vote. But here's where it gets interesting, because if they vote to convict the president, if this were to happen, he's immediately removed from office. But if that did happen, then by a simple majority vote, they could also vote to ban him for life from higher office, which means he couldn't run again in 2024, which has been the talk. Okay, if this election were fraudulent, if it does end up going for Biden, President Trump will just run again in 2024. So there's definitely incentive for the Democrats to get together and try and rally that 67 votes in the Senate, because then all they need is a majority to then ban him from running again. That's the talk. I don't think they could get that many votes in the Senate right now for a guy that only has 11 days left on his term. But that, when you hear that, that's the thing. This impeaching doesn't mean anything. He was impeached once. He received our nomination for president and broke the record for a sitting president for results, for election results. He got all the bellwether counties except for one. He won Florida, Ohio, and Iowa. Every president who wins those wins, except 1960 when Richard Nixon lost due to corruption. This is the kind of numbers that President Trump put up, but the Democrats are on the attack. I don't think he's going to do anything crazy over these next 11 days, but I do think the Democrats will they won't stop at anything to bring him down. It's a crazy scene that we're living in right now. And we came up for this live show, and I've just never been more focused on a show, because I don't think we've had a more important show since I've been doing the 13-minute news hour or the Saturday live stream than this one. There is so much at stake. When they can take 5,000 followers from me, they're just gone. 1,000 subscribers on the YouTube channel, just gone. Blocking the president of the United States, threatening to block access to a free speech app. Think about that one. Big tech is threatening to block access to a free speech app. It is absolutely crazy, but this is the society that we're living in. And for all of those who thought Joe Biden would bring unity, just listen to what he has been saying this past week, calling Trump supporters thugs, trying to relate a BLM protest or Antifa protest with what happened on Wednesday, somehow bringing race into the picture when we saw what happened with Antifa for over 100 days in Portland, or Chaz for weeks lawlessness, deaths, riots, looting, vandalism, assaults, you name it. He tries to make that comparison. And now we have big tech, we've got the media running amok, running like crazy, and it is so frustrating. It just makes you wonder, these past couple of days, it makes you wonder, where do we go? What do we do? Do we have a voice in supposedly the freest country in America? That is what we're all facing, doing a lot of soul searching. But I know this. I was raised, I've got a PhD in aerospace engineering. I've built a company that became very successful. But through all of that, the one thing I always consider myself kind of first and foremost is an athlete. And in an athlete, you train to win. You fight and you win. That is what you do. I'm not a quitter. I've never quit on anything, and I am willing to fight this fight. And I hope you folks are with me, because we need to fight. The big tech, the media, they are emboldened. They brought down their number one target in President Trump. But you know what? Dan Bongino was saying that big tech is bigger than the government. It may be, but big tech is not bigger than the American people. We can fight back. We have to fight back, and we have to do it together. Our numbers overwhelm them. Our passion overwhelms them. Our beliefs overwhelm them. We can do it, but we have to stay together. We need that voice going forward. We need to search out these other platforms, and we need to keep going strong. I will not quit. I will fight in whatever manner that leads to, whatever it is, whatever platform, whatever arena. I will be out there being your voice, fighting for conservative values, because we need it now more than ever. The Democrats are emboldened, and we are in a scary, scary place right now. I'm willing to take your questions. We don't have a guest today. I just wanted to mostly come on and brief you guys on what happened last night, and how it wasn't just President Trump, how it's everybody. All conservatives are basically in the crosshairs right now. So if you have any questions, let me know. I mean, I would love to go over this and take a few questions before we sign off. And the one thing I received a question here, and that is, how do we organize? Well, you know what? I'm going to be talking with folks. I'm going to give you the answer to that, because there are a lot of people out there with voices. I do think we need to get organized. We need to come up with a movement that takes where we are now and brings it to the American people to say, you are not alone. If you disagree, you are not alone. We can still debate. That's what the great halls of Congress were all about. That's what was supposed to happen on Wednesday. We need to do that. We need to organize. I will lead the effort. I'll be part of the effort. I don't even need to be in the forefront. I will be part of it, just bringing the information to you. Whatever works, I will research it. I'll find it. If not, I'll work with folks to develop it, because that is what we needed. Any other questions or comments out there? Someone asked, how do we peacefully fight within the law? One of the things, folks, that we have to start doing right now, in addition to all this big tech, is you need to get involved in your party structure, because that's partly where the control lies. And that is voter integrity, ballot security. What we saw right now is that the campaign, if you really think about it, the 2020 campaign did not matter. President Trump's rallies did not matter. This huge organization, huge fundraising, none of it mattered, because what really matters is the vote. You can have the best campaign in the world. You can be against a guy that stays in his basement, never holds a rally of more than 20 people, and that guy wins. And why? Because basically we have Milwaukee, Detroit, Philadelphia, and Atlanta swing the entire election. People were shut out from observing. We need to have people that are educated, that are knowledgeable on the process, and that will not back down to their lawfully given rights to observe. We need that there. That is the law. And I think we were caught off guard, and that needs to start now, folks. That is not later. We need to push for voter ID. We need to push for cleaning up the voter rolls from dead people and people that have moved. No one should be against having a clean, accurate voter database. No one should be against voter ID. These are common sense legislative pieces that you can take up in your states. That is what we need to do. That is a lawful thing that will prepare us for the future, prepare us for 2022, and 2024. I cannot stress the importance enough of fighting back against the media, against big tech, but also preparing ourselves that even if our voices get out, President Trump got his voice out, we see what can happen. We need to make sure that our elections are free, fair, and accurate, and that starts right now. Anything else that we have? I just got asked if I support Texas independence. I'm still not giving up on the United States of America. I think that this is the greatest country in the world. But what we've seen is a decades-long assault on our freedoms from the left. And they did it in a very patient, very calculated way by going through institutions like education, like the media, like the deep state. They saw government as a tool, not to serve the people, but to serve themselves with these career bureaucrats. We need to have a system that fights back against this and realize that they've waited decades to take over basically every source of communication that we have. This is what we are. We are educating our children in secondary schools and elementary schools in left-wing philosophy. That is because the teachers union have been allowed to have curriculum like that. We need to fight back against that. This is a long, hard battle, but I think the last 2 days have showed that the battle is on and we need to fight. Another question about Ted Cruz, any other conservatives being banned like Ted Cruz? Well, I gave you an example of what's happening to Josh Hawley. We're going to see it more and more, folks. And this is the thing. I believe that Candace Owens, a couple months ago, was banned for a little bit on Twitter. She brought a lawsuit against them. And this is the kind of things we need to do. Whether your voice is big or small, you need to fight back. And for the small voices, again, if we can organize and come together, then we should not let any banning or throttling or demonetization go without a response. We need to fight back. We need to take it to them because we have the numbers. All right, folks, I think I'm all talked out for today. It's been just I appreciate all of your support, and please leave comments on ideas on what we can do. We will start a movement. We will keep this going because this is too important. This is too crucial of a time in America to let the left continue this steamroller over voices that they think they've crushed because they took down President Trump. We need to show them that we are alive and well. Our next show will be Monday. It'll be our regular Saturday live stream, 11:45 a.m. Central Time. That'll be the next show. But before you go, please subscribe. And when you do, please hit that bell so you'll be notified. And we'll see you next time. I'm Bobby Eberle. This is a Saturday live stream. Okay, friends, thanks so much for watching. And before you go, please hit that subscribe button, hit that bell so you'll be notified. And here's a special video just for you so you can watch even more of the 13-minute news hour. And don't forget to check out GOPUSA.com for the best in conservative news and commentary. We'll see you next time.